All right, you can hear us. That is fantastic.
Yeah,
it is the 26th. We weren't quite sure. Buffs.
Yeah, all these things.
No, but seriously, we do have a lot to talk today because a lot has happened in week 1 of the PTS. I mean, I guess calling it week 1 kind of confirms that there's probably more coming. Anyway, we'll get to that. We have a lot to talk about today. But week 1, a lot has happened, and we'll get to all of the admittedly broken stuff throughout this because there is some things that are wildly broken. It's not the Valkyria. That's totally fine.
Oh, that's fine.
It's a buff every. You were joking about buff every. Yeah. But the other thing to note, sorry, is that people were like, "Oh, why didn't the ETF catch this?" They did. Don't worry about it.
Yes,
they all the feedback we got from them was super valuable. The build that people are playing on the PTS right now doesn't include those. Most of their feedback. No. It was fairly close in time, so we didn't have time to implement a lot of what they suggested. A lot of that is coming up. But guys, I'm aware that we sound like we're making a lot of excuses. So let's talk about the things. One that was previously the Valkyria, and a new one which is of the same type. And if you switch back and forth between them, is the intent, you build up a buff on one that can be used by the other. But that's not what was happening. Some glitch made it so that the first one could use the buff it was building and keep building it forever. So it cost a decent amount of damage. And it pretty much defined the Dark Zone meta for the week. People were erasing each other. You cheat, but legitimately. So what of the Valkyria will people see in the next iteration of the PTS? Well, first of all, they're going to be named Hilder and Ayer.
So correctly named.
Correctly named. Yes. One of them is gold and one is silver. And the Hilder builds up a buff for critical strike damage that the Ayer can use. Okay. And while you're using it with the Ayer, it will be dropping. So and while you're using it with the Ayer, it will be dropping. So the intent is the same, it's just that now you have to use it. It will work. Yeah. It will work only. It'll work. Like that. In before, it might not. And in PTS week 2, there's probably something else. No. I have confidence that this will work. Because I think also the value was down from 100% to 30%. 30% now. And that's subject to change, we'll see. Of course. Yeah. As is everything on the PTS. Yes. Don't forget, and I think this is one of the things that we run away with all the time. People stop doing like daily builds. Yeah. No, but so the next thing was the Hungry Hog. The Hungry Hog had a math error. Okay, so it was 2%. It was 200% instead of 20%. Oh yeah, yeah. So what it's going to be though, it's going to be a 10% per stack, and it's going to stack a max of 5 times. Is what we're going to try out for the next phase of the PTS, which should be a little bit more reasonable. So it should still work with Meticulous, but therefore you're going to build up to 50%. The impression that the set gives is that it's about spamming shots to the body with reckless abandon. And while it can be used more cleverly than that, because you can use the crit for a crit headshot, etc., that's not what we were seeing. No, and it's, and also the crits are a powerful way to proc things like the Caduceus and other things like that, self-preserved, whatever. So we're going to go a different way with it. And also the crits are a powerful way to proc things like the Caduceus and other things like that, self-preserved, whatever. So we're going to go a different way with it. We're gonna have it so that after 2 shots to the body, you're going to get a 200% headshot multiplier for your next headshot. Yes. So you actually have to use some precision to cash that in. Yes, and the 2 and 3 piece are also changed. Yes, so you don't get, as the 2 piece, you won't have the 10% body damage because that's no. So there's going to be a utility stat there. We're going to try with some of the new stat, resist all for it. Yeah. Okay. Then the 3 piece. And the 3 piece is where the body shot damage ends up. At 5% though. At 5%. We're going to try 5%. We're going to try 5% with that. I mean, the math works out to somewhere around that. If you look at other damage increases. Yeah, I mean, people are already in chat saying that's way better. Some people are a little bit mad. Probably a lot of Valkyria. I think it's gonna. So we're gonna have to dial that in. We're gonna see if it creates a one-shot meta, but that depends on. You know, does it drop the buff after X seconds or something to prevent you from stacking it up on some NPCs over here and then drop the guy over there? Yeah. There's all these kinds of things we can do to it, but this is the base thing that we're going to try out for now. Yes.
And I'm just reading chat. You guys forget about SMG? No, I mean we're still obviously. Well, I
And,
can't speak for
and
Frederick.
some of the news that we're talking about today will serve. It's a weapon, right? Why not?
I don't know what I'm doing here anyway. So
well, the thing
it's
is,
like
you're so out of practice, Yannick, that you just sit there and look beardy, and that's fine.
okay, that's good.
But
Just here for the looks.
Can I say it?
Yeah.
The MDR is getting a 65% base damage increase.
So
Feel good about it.
So it's going to be decently close to some of the lower-end marksman rifles, like the SVD, in terms of power.
I feel very, very good about this. It's
Since we're talking about weapons,
yes.
And it's my turn to.
It's all right. I'll just be here.
Somebody was asking about the showstopper.
Yeah, we're going to increase the showstopper some as well.
Yeah.
It's been underperforming.
Base damage-wise or talent-wise?
Base damage-wise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talent doesn't go much anywhere further because it already goes to sort of pinpoint accuracy. So base damage.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And now people will be like, Striker, showstopper, new meta.
The change that we made to the armor bonus, turning it into health, is just the first step of the results of that workshop and what we do. So what we're going to do now is, first of all, we're going to hand out free base health to everyone.
Yeah.
I think it's tier 5. It's somewhere around the 80,000 health region that's going to be just given to you for free for just existing.
So people don't have that in
No.
PTS 1?
No. So right now everything comes from your stamina on your gear. You're still going to have the stamina. Bonuses aren't so valuable that you can't pick anything else for them.
Yeah.
So that should allow us to keep people at high survivability, or the survivability that we were targeting, while allowing them to pick some other stats.
Yeah.
So to that effect, we've also gone through and house cleaned a little bit in the stats of gear. So we made sure that there's some lesser used stats we've thrown away on new gear. Some very sizable chunk of reload speed.
That's cool.
And you can even find a pretty large amount of stability on one of the pieces if you're struggling in that area.
Okay.
So overall, the goal is to try to make a meta where you are a little bit more free to pick what your build is, and that there's something for every type of build on every piece, so that there's something for firearms shooter people, there's something for skill users. We did a first little thing on the first PTS where we did a different camera for it to sort of take away that overview that you have when you're stuck in your, when you retain your normal camera. There's a couple of ways we could go with hipfire. Obviously, hipfire should function in the game. It's a part of the game, but it should be a panic reaction that's not very effective. For the next PTS, we're going to go with adjusting spread and recoil quite. We're going to go with adjusting spread and recoil quite aggressively when you're hip firing. If that turns out to not feel good or not be right, then we can try other things later. Cool. But that's what's going to happen in the next
it's going to be interesting to see, and this is one of the things that we definitely want to have as an ongoing discussion, because and it's already a discussion to be
state of the game.
Thank you.
Where you had so many viewers because I was not in.
Yeah, you should just leave now. See what happens.
Well,
you shouldn't leave.
The last end game mode.
Yes.
So this is something that we definitely want to try on the PTS, obviously. So this is going to be made available with the next PTS, and coming with the last end game mode is also something that we really want to try and really need to test on the PTS. It's going to be normalization.
Yay!
So the idea of normalization is, and I've seen some people asking in the chat, limit the impact of min-maxing your gear and all of that in the PvP of Last Stand. So the idea with normalization is, first, it's something that only applies to Last Stand. It does not apply to the Dark Zone. And when you go in Last Stand, we are basically going to work some magic with the stats that you have on your character based on your gear and all of that to make sure to limit the impact of randomness on your gear, basically. So how does that work? I actually have the list here of the normalization. What does that? 256. So that's it. You can go there with gear 163. It's going to become a 256. That's the first part. This is just temporary, okay? Keep that in mind when you leave Last Stand, when you're back with your normal gear. So 256 for the gear pieces, basically all the main attributes, firearms, stamina, and electronics are going to be maxed out to the maximum roll possible, which is, I can't remember, 1275 or something like that. Or
What?
Anyway, so the bonuses are actually going to be uniformly scaled. So this is the weapon type damage. So it's all the pistol damage, SMG damage, and all of that. The skill power and the health. These are going to be uniformly scaled, which means that they're all going to be brought to the same value, to a uniform value.
Great.
Then all the other bonuses, though, these remain the same. They are not changed.
Okay.
So they will have different values depending on the player and depending on your gear. That's for the gear pieces. Then for the weapons, so the same there. So normally it should be easier for you to unlock talents, but that depends what kind of stats you specialized in. Then the mods will act as normal, and all the other stats are also unchanged. So the RPM, the reload speed, and all these kind of things will be unchanged. The armor mitigation value is going to be set at the same value for everyone. So everybody has the same armor mitigation, so there is no min-maxing your armor.
Max rolled armor.
Yeah, max roll armor, basically. And then all the things that...
And you don't want to miss it, because there will be patch notes at the same time.
Yes.
Which will have a lot of information, because there's a lot of changes.
Oh,
Anything else?
No, I think you nailed it.
I nailed it.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. I know, this is weird. Now I don't know what to do. What do we usually do at this time?
Awkward Hamish.
Sign off.
Usually I wave.
I don't. Okay.
We're going to go.